Thank you for joining us for the third virtual meeting of the ABA Policy Advocacy Committee. To start our meeting, I would like to invite the chairman of ABA, Mr. Eugene Acevedo, to deliver his welcome remarks. Sir.
Thank you. Members of the ABA Board of Directors, distinguished paper presenters, ladies and gentlemen, good day to you all. As ABA chairman, it is my great pleasure to welcome you to the third virtual meeting this year of the ABA Policy Advocacy Committee. Today's meeting follows the previous two successful meetings, also held virtually, that took place on March 3 and August 3 of this year, respectively. During the two meetings, representatives from ABA member banks discussed the work program of ABA for 2022 and the position papers prepared on policy issues of current interest to members in the region's banking sector as a whole. Today, we will have the paper presentations on topics that were decided during the last committee meeting in August. Let me once again thank all those who have registered for today's meeting, and your presence certainly underscores your continued commitment to our association and what it represents. Our special thank you also goes to those who will give their presentations today for generously agreeing to share with us their knowledge and expertise on the policy issues of current concern. I am sure their insightful contributions will add great value to our deliberations. Once again, I will leave the chairmanship of today's meeting under the capable hands of Ms. Christina Alvarez, SVP of RCBC and the current chairman of the ABA Policy Advocacy Committee. I encourage you to actively participate in today's discussion so that concrete steps can be taken by the ABA on matters that have significant impact on the banking sector and the operations of our respective organizations. I therefore look forward to a productive meeting. Again, welcome to all of you.
For our agenda, we will be discussing two papers prepared by our member banks who have contributed their time and efforts to help us accomplish our 2022 work program. First, Bank of East Asia from Hong Kong will be sharing with us its paper on application of data analytics. This will be followed with a presentation by Vietnam Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development, or AgriBank, on hybrid work environment. And later, we would like to solicit your suggestions on policy issues or concerns for the future policy advocacy works of the committee. Let's now move on to the first item, the consideration of the paper on application of data analytics. A copy of the paper was prepared by the Bank of East Asia, was circulated earlier. And now we would like to call on Mr. Kenny Au, Head of Data Science and Governance Department, to kindly make his presentation.
Thank you, Christina. So I think we'll bring up the presentation shortly. Obviously, the banking industry has been a bit more proactive in the recent years in terms of thinking about how we would like to apply more data analytics and hopefully to create more commercialization, monetization out of data. Now, it's easy to talk about different analytics and use cases, but probably for today, I'm going to talk a bit more about the approach from Bank of East Asia on how we want to be more commercialized and industrialized in the world of data analytics. So we move on to the first quick page. Okay. Now, in the Bank of East Asia, there's four elements that we actually consider or dimensions that we consider to be successful if we want to do well in data. So meaning that we want to have a resilient culture. We want to empower more self-servicing, creativity, and innovation as well. So the first dimension that you see on the page here is more about the strategy from the bottom left. The approach of this bank has sort of taken an approach whereby we believe that a data culture should be within everybody's mindset, not just the top management, not just the working level, but really everybody. When we talk about getting good information out of data, the strategy is more about how quick we can derive from raw data into good intelligent information. So that was the strategy that we taken by the bank. There's no right or wrong in terms of strategy, but what we believe is that if we are able to get information faster than the others, then it will be a key successful factor. So this is the strategy that we talk about. The second part, how do we achieve a fast, insightful strategy coming from data? So it's more about people. Historically, people would actually think about data is something technical. Data is something that can only be supported by IT teams. And we needed like a lot of technical support in order to derive data to do PowerPoints, Excel, graphics, etc. Now, in the modern world, I think a lot of us will know that there are a lot of tools in the market. There are a lot of very handy, quick data analytical tools that can actually make the world of data analytics much easier. What we started to do in Bank of East Asia is that we started to empower and train some of our staff to actually think more outside the box, whereby we want them to think about how we use data analytics as a core skill set. So if you think about it's a bit like about 10, 15 years ago when we think about, yes, it's Microsoft products, it's Excel, your PowerPoint, Microsoft Access, Oracle databases. Now it's more about like simple tools like Tableau, Power BI, self-service tools where even the most like simple stuff, simple tasks, when we have some data available, we can actually make use of it and find good information quickly. So we believe that this is a core skill set, and we believe that like this is something that everybody could be capable to have. I'm going to talk a bit more about the bank-wide training in the later stages. We talk about strategy, we talk about people, the platform. Now, additionally, we have company service that handles a lot of like storage of data, systems, etc. I think now we're at the phase whereby when we talk about big data analytics, we want to study the bank's data. We want to study the data available within the market, within the internet. How are we going to aggregate so much information into good information? As such, the bank's foundation in terms of data analytics capability is definitely very important. So we actually spend a lot of investment in terms of like designing a platform that is more capable and be able to allow different levels of users to be able to use data and analyze data efficiently. Finally, the last I mentioned, use case. Now, once we have the people, once we have the platform, once we have the strategy, obviously most organizations will talk about the return on investment. How do we get different use cases in terms of like analyzing data, being able to use the data to find opportunities, to be able to find like a revenue leads, cost efficiency gains, or also sort of risk mitigation type of like analysis will be important for any company. So definitely when all the investment is invested, it is important that we sort of make use of different use cases in order to actually continue to monitor, continue to drive value, and bring back benefits on the investments that we have on data. So that's on use cases. Okay, moving on to the next page. Now, probably just 1 or 2 minutes on this page here. Now, what we tried to do in Bank of East Asia was that we try to categorize different people in different skill sets and try to empower them with different data knowledges. Now, in Bank of East Asia, Hong Kong, we have about 4,000 colleagues. The target for us is to actually have a bank-wide data literacy empowerment. This is like a training session that would actually cover at least half of our population in 2022. Obviously, not everybody will have the hands-on data analytical experience, but the dimensions of in terms of data literacy is that we need the data leaders, which are the like general managers of the bank, the senior executives, to have the understanding of the concepts and the vision of data. We also have a bit of working level where they understand a bit about what the data analytic capability, how it could potentially apply to different departments. And also sometimes we bring in industry leaders to do a bit of sharing session. This is the data citizens. And finally, what we anticipate for 2022 is that we would like to actually train a bit more an expert population, which is what we call citizen data scientists. People who has the business knowledge or the domain knowledge to understand the business problems and actively use this data to resolve the problems for the department. Today, this population is a population about 50 people, about 1 to 2 persons for each department. And hopefully, we also work behind closely with them to drive a sort of data community, being able to bring more tools, more platforms, more ideas, and finally, being able to create these use cases for the department as well. So for us, we actually spend a lot of money in terms of upskilling our people in terms of data literacy. Okay, now I talked about platform now, and I'm quite sure that some of this may not be new for a lot of us. in Bankesa, we are using a cloud platform, which is a Google Cloud. Obviously, cloud platform is still very fancy for a lot of countries, and it's also an external service as well. So like regulators might have a concern in terms of outsourcing, also like data storage outside the company premises, etc. But what we need to understand is that the cloud technology has a very high performance capability. It can manage a lot of data, and the cost is actually very small compared to internal maintenance as well. So basically, like we are banks. In no way we are fintech or like experts like players like Microsoft and Google. So definitely, like utilizing external clouds or public clouds is one of the best ways for us to consider how we want to maintain the data, how we want to store the data, and analyze the data. Preparation. What we like to do is that when we put a lot of data onto the cloud for analytics, etc., we also need to enforce a governance. Who can have access to data? Who can analyze the data? And more importantly, what is the definition of data? Now, just give one example in the bank here. When we talk about sales revenue, our retail department might have one definition, our wholesale department might have one definition, our investment department might have one definition. So when we bring this data into the cloud with so much data volume, how do we make sure that people have a common understanding? So a good data governance means that we have a good data dictionary and be able for us to understand what we put on data is legitimate and be able to use properly for the right reasons. Finally, in terms of process, so like we start to put more tooling into our platforms in terms of data visualization, in terms of AI machine learning. We have also something called tagging library, which is a tool for us to actually continue to analyze our clients and be able to tag different behaviors. What are the interests? What is their like potential needs for future banking services? And with these tagging, hopefully we can like pitch the right products and be able to get the right products to our clients and properly as well. Probably the one of the comments from us is that yes, for sure we want a lot of people to learn data, but like not everybody would become an expert. So what we had in this bank here in terms of strategy is a two-phase approach. My team here within Bank of Visa is a centralized center of excellence, or you can call it a data expert team, where we also continue to do analytics for other departments. We also run machine learning, modeling, governance. So we do have a centralized expertise. But otherwise, like the training that we provided so far is also to have an impact for the rest of the bank or rest of the staff. So that like for simple and not too complex stuff, I think information that they want to get quickly, they are able to do it themselves straight away. And we have the tools available for them in the platform. So the self-services, visualization and testing. Hopefully, with a specialist team and also generous bank-wide adoption team, we can drive the bank to be more adaptive in terms of data. So in terms of real use cases, now, what I try to emphasize in this page here is that data analytics is not that complex. Now, a lot of people might be very afraid in terms of the term, in terms of the approach. But what I'm trying to say is that like sometimes for me, being able to get information quickly out of data, useful intelligence, useful insights, doesn't have to be complex. How do we find information quickly? So for example, we can do real-time analysis where we identify certain behaviors or certain traits. Being able to provide simple recommendations, be able to provide alerts, these kind of ideas, it's always something that's welcome. And to me, it's a quick win to the bank. Obviously, I don't expect the bank to be very understandable in terms of complex machine learning, but like, let's just start with simple. To me, any idea that can extract good information out of data is a good idea. And sometimes it's just a matter of getting data from a source A and being able to pass it to the right people quickly. So this particular use case I put on this page is that when we talk about real-time analysis, it's just a very timely information that we extract from different sources. It could be customers' behavior, it could be from bank account movements, and straight away, as long as we can pass the right information to the right people, then they're able to actually get this information quickly and be able to make useful out of it. That's probably the objective of use case real-time analysis. Finally, so in conclusion, in terms of outlook, probably the approach is that like what we believe the future of banking of data is that data is going to be more and more important, more useful for open banking as well, and potentially be able to share the data to other counterparties as well. in Hong Kong, our Hong Kong regulators have a program called Commercial Data Exchange, which is allowing some banks to actually share data against each other. And finally, obviously, the approach is that with more and more external data, we hope to open the open finance as well, being able to use the data with our partners. How do we collect more information to our ecosystem so that we can actually bring more custom tailor-made services to our clients? To me, these two will be like the future of banking and data as well. Okay, so that's probably the conclusion of my presentation.
Thank you very much. We would like to invite now for the participants to make their comments on the paper and
Any questions are welcome. Yeah.
Okay, we have a question. Do we need to learn Python as a programming language?
Yes, to be in some way, but I wouldn't say everybody. Now, give an example, like a lot of the university graduates, they actually know Python by graduating because like they study statistics, study math, they study commerce. Python is sort of becoming a very popular language. It's always good to learn, but I would say that on the other hand, like I also try to make use of a lot of the junior colleagues within the bank who are recent graduates. And to me, that's already like something in their blood as well. So I wouldn't say it's necessary, but it's also handy to have people around you with that knowledge as well.
There's another question, Kenny. To what extent is the Hong Kong regulator promoting open banking?
Definitely, they're very proactive on these days in Hong Kong. We started to do a lot more work in terms of data sharing, and the commercial data helps to actually promote the open banking in a sense. Next week is also the FinTech week as well, and I believe that they've also have a lot more plans in terms of creating more APIs, pushing a lot of like I would say information organizations like TransUnion and etc. to actually help even non-bank to have access to banking data, vice versa, so that we can continue to promote that open banking area.
There's another question requesting clarification on the difference between data governance and data management. Which comes first?
To me, data governance is around the rules, the frameworks, and the principles in terms of managing data. Now, on the other hand, the data management itself is probably a bit more than just the framework and governance. So it probably goes into a bit more detail. And in the recent years, when people talk about data management, it's also about the use as well. So historically, when we talk about data governance, it's always about defensive compliance aspects. Data management now is much more than just compliance. It's more about commercialization, industrialization. Now, to me, it sort of goes both hand in hand. I know that historically, data governance should come first because a lot of companies, they would talk about like data compliance. You might have been hearing things like BCBS in Europe, IHC requirements on data from Americas as well. So those are definitely important. But let's not forget that like obviously banks would also require a lot of data for the day-to-day processes, for the business opportunities, for the revenue as well. So to me, both are actually equally important. You have one side, which is the defense, the data governance, and on the other hand, the full data management, the data commercialization aspect, where it's more the offense in terms of using data. So it has to go hand in hand together. One cannot work without the other. So.
There's a question here that's it's not easy to find data expertise. How do we manage the human resource for data?
For me, actually, I come back to the concept now, or maybe one of the challenges I had as well. So I had the same exact challenges as the question here. But when we came to find potential experts, where do we find them? Now, to me, you can separate people who knows the business and who knows the technical aspects of data analytics. Now, what happened was at the beginning, like let's say a few years ago, when I started to create data organizations, departments, etc., I also had the same challenge. Now, what I find that is that you might have a lot of data science in the market, data scientists, but they probably have a very little understanding of the business know-how, the banking knowledge, and experiences. Now, on the other hand, what I would emphasize is that today, the data analytical tools available by, like, for example, Microsoft, by Amazon, by Google, They're very easy to use. And sometimes you even have these kind of tools available on your phones. So in terms of my suggestion, and I think probably the most effective way is that instead of hiring people from the market, should we also not consider to actually train people from our businesses who have already good business domain knowledge, who knows a lot of information about our department and where the data potentially needed, and equip them with some tools. To me, that's probably a much more, I would say, effective and more value-adding way in terms of identifying our colleagues to be able to do the analysis ourselves. And to me, that's why Bank of East Asia have been focusing a lot in terms of training internal colleagues. We know that it's not easy to find a market, but internally, we have an upside whereby we have the banking knowledge to bring the knowledge to them so that we can actually do analytics effectively as well. So for me, probably the best approach is to upskill our colleagues within the bank.
So what direction are you taking in order to implement consent management in open banking? Will there be a centralized consent management facility?
When we say consent management, it's more about like, is it about due diligence, etc. So maybe I can, if you can elaborate that, then I can answer a little bit later. But otherwise, to me, consent or not consent, we always think about a centralized facility because I think the whole world of data, open banking, it's about connectivity and communications. So how do we merge information together to actually be able to more be effectiveness in terms of running our processes, be it like analyzing a bit more data from different directions, etc. So I'll definitely for us, Bank of East Asia, the approach would be to have a centralized repository on our facility that allows us to be able to extract different information across different systems. So I think centralized is probably the most often the approach on any type of information.
There are two questions here about people wanting to learn more about data science and how do they get more trainings, where can they, how can they start? What advice can you give?
I can probably provide some links afterwards now. There's a open circular called Coursera, so which I think it's a very good source, in terms of not just thinking about the technical aspects of data science, but it sort of gives good understanding in terms of what kind of data science techniques or capabilities can help different organizations and departments. Now, to me, I would say that even myself, I don't come from a very technical background, but more coming from a business analysis background. So I think what was good for me in those kind of tools and studies is that I can use my business analysis mindset to find out what the problem is with my department, what is the objective of the project that we want to achieve within the bank. And then using understanding the different type of techniques of data science, be able to work with the technical teams to apply those information into my business problems. So Coursera is the actual program. So I actually found that tool very, very useful. To me, non-tech career can always start with a business analysis first, because I think today in the market, what is needed the most is that people to understand the business, people to understand the operations, and be able to think about what kind of techniques can be applied to that department. Once you have that knowledge, I think learn the technical part or be able to leverage technical expertise around the bank. To me, that's probably easier. So that business analysis on data will be important.
Thank you very much, Kenny. I think those are all the questions that we have. So we would like to thank all the participants for their comments and inputs. We will endorse the paper of the Bank of East Asia. Let us now proceed to the next agenda item, the consideration of the paper on hybrid work environment. A copy of the paper was also circulated as attachment 2. May we now call on the representative from Vietnam Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development, or AgriBank, Ms. Nguyen Tuyet Buong, member of the Board of Directors, to kindly present the paper.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to be invited by ABA to attend this meeting and to share AgriBank's experience and practice in implementing a hybrid working environment during the COVID-19 pandemic. So my presentation will consist two main parts. First, what did Agribank to do deal with the COVID-19 pandemic? And the second one is what are the Agribank strategy plan to adapt to the new normal. Now let's talk about Agribank policy to deal with COVID-19. First of all, I would like to present a quick overview about our bank, as well as what we are achieved in 2021. So in our slide, you see that our bank established in and officially operated in March 26, 1998. And now, after 34 years of operation and development, our bank is considered the latest state-owned commercial bank in Vietnam. And we have a network of nearly 2,300 branches and transaction offices, employee nearly 40,000 officials and employee with presence 9 out of 13 island districts, managing and operating 2 large data centers for centralized processing, 4,000 ATMs, 25,000 POS machines, and 68 transaction powered by specialized vehicle. Our bank currently serves over 30 million customers, with 50 million have payment account operating on Agribank digital banking ecosystem. In 2021, as Vietnam and the world, as you may know, suffer from the heavy impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Our bank business activity have been affected more than other commercial banks. That is due to 2 reasons. First is the large size and network, and the second is customer base that mainly consists of people living in agriculture and rural area, as well as the disadvantaged and vulnerable groups in society. As you may know, following the direction of the government and the central bank, our bank had directed the drastic, flexible, and synchronous implementation of multiple policy as well as human and technological solutions to help mitigate the impact of the pandemic, contributing support economic growth of the country, and at the same time reach Agribank business target in 2021 is the highest level. And in this slide, you can see we have a 9 business indicator witness a growth. Our total means a payment increase by 8.93%, credit increase by 97%, and total asset increase by 8.3% compared with 2012. And here is a slide. You see the detailed business and result Agribank at the end of the year 2021 compared to the 2012. And most notably, service income has increased by 30.8% and profit before tax increased 20% compared with 2012. This one is moving to the 2021. And our data is until September 20. In order to achieve this result from slide 5, 6, and 7, you can see that during the pandemic prevention and post-pandemic process, Agribank has persistently and dramatically implemented the following 4 groups of policy. First, policy for the Agribank system. In this, you can see as the COVID-19 pandemic was very complicated and unpredictable. The board of directors of the Agribank has issued a series directive to the head office and as well as unit and branches through the system, such as timely using document to direct and guide unit to deploy and propagate pandemic prevention and control measure, proactively develop scenario, implement appropriate contingency plan on organization and personnel depending on the development of the pandemic, continuously cope with the pandemic with ensure productivity and business goals set out at the beginning of the year. We also established a committee for epidemic prevention and control through the system on duty 24 hours, 7 days per week. The committee at the head office is directed by the general director. Committee at unit and branches in the system are directed by the representative head of the unit. On the one hand, propagate and ensure all employees follow pandemic prevention measures. On the other hand, continuously monitor and urgently report case of infection to take countermeasures to ensure no interruption in business. Directive review and assessment to come up with action plan, regulation and plan to support customers affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. And the second, policy agreement for Agribank staff. Agribank believe that 100% our staff to be vaccinated against COVID-19. F0 and F1 employees are supported and facilitated to treatment and installation. Trade unions at all levels are on charge in funding for testing and treatment according to regulators. Visit and support staff who employee have COVID-19. Allocate resources to respond to the pandemic before the lockdown period. During social distancing under the direction of the Prime Minister. During the lockdown period, only assign head of unit and essential staff at key department to work at the headquarters to conduct business and act as contact points, ensuring continuous operation for vital business activities such as withdrawal ATM, deposit payment of international community, guarantee letter of credit. Present our policy and what is it for customer. At every transaction office, we apply social distancing to asset assignment to limit the maximum number of customers per transaction. You can see in the distance between the customer. Combined with information declaration through COVID prevention application, for example, QR code, blue zone. The transaction desk is equipped by splash prevention screen, mask, antiseptic solution, and protective clothing for transaction staff. Deploy new service and encourage customer to issue digital banking service. Timely and effectively deploy online account service through digital application, eKYC. Added more utility, expanded the ecosystem of Agribank e-mobile banking electronic channel so that customer can easily make payment for goods and essential service without on-site presence. Maintain continuity and availability for ATM, CDM, and POS system so that customer can using banking services without interruption. Issue non-fiscal visual card, microchip card, contactless card. Successfully expanding electronic PIN service. Piloted the deployment of domestic microchip card product as well as standard domestic chip card convention. We also has coordinated with partner to deploy 20 hours of SPV license e-wallet such as Momo, Payu, Shopee, Zalo Pay, while researching for the implementation of VNPay, Mobile Pay, EcoPay. And for customer, we use special policy for customer exemption and reduction of interest and service fees. I think it's one of the very good reason for customer when they can use many service, banking service without fee. Agribank is a bank that offer 100% interest reduction for customer on the system, with the whole process being implemented online. Proactively lower lending rates by 1.5 per year to support customer and is some burden on business. Panel of 10% reduction in lending interest rate for about 1.4 quadrillion of existing outstanding loan and more than 3.7 million customer. At the moment, Agribank total net profit reduction was 5,006 trillion Vietnamese đồng, the largest among 60 commercial banks committed. As a result, total newly opened new account increased by 17.5 compared to 2012. E-banking service revenue, interest, internet banking, SMS banking, Bank Plus, e-mobile banking, e-wallet increased by 20.4% compared with 2012, account for 30% of total services revenue. And what has Agribank contributed to the society? Throughout the period, Agribank has actively participated in movement to support pandemic prevention, donating nearly 600 billion Vietnamese đồng to buy ventilators, establish free hospital, and support the COVID-19 vaccine fund, develop RISE ATM. You can see in the picture, we call it a RISE automatic teller machine, distributing free rice to the poor. Open a zero-dome shop for people in lockdown area, providing essential equipment and food such as rice, vegetable, and clean water. In line the promptly implemented policy, technology plays a vital role in dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic. During the period as directed by the Board of Directors, Agribank has truly benefited from technological advantage and digital platform alongside information security in all activities. Agribank benefits from technological advantage and digital transformation. As a leading bank in Vietnam, in recent years, Agribank has won 9 domestic awards. It's South Korea Award for Agribank Bill Payment System, Agribank e-mobile banking, Agri-Tax Electronic Tax Payment Gateway. This service belong to Agribank digital banking ecosystem during the COVID-19 pandemic. They have become the main channel serving in increasing online transaction need of customers across the country. In addition, Agribank also take advantage of digital platform to stay connected and maintaining communication in new working environment that combine on-site, online, remote working combined with working at the office, especially at the headquarters. Ensure the safe and smooth operation of IT and payment system, meeting the increased demand for online transaction due to the COVID pandemic. Organize many online conferences, saving the administration of the whole system. Continuously maintain and upgrade the system, meet the need of developing new distribution channel, product and services, and support to provide digital services. Research and invest in digital infrastructure for digital transformation. Enhance safety and security for the IT system. Applying technology in internal operation. Applying technology and digital communication solution to deploy remote work system to ensure safety, online meetings, job assignment, and development via email, backing up and preparing document in digital environment. And for units and branches set up a communication group on digital platforms, Zalo, Messenger, etc. to direct, operate, and promote deploy daily tasks in the condition of having work in rotation, lockdown, and social distancing conditions, using digital means, email, Zalo, FaceTime, Messenger, mobile phone to work, exchange, and advise customer in isolated area, guiding customer to use e-mobile banking to perform transactions such as saving deposit, electricity, and water service payment, e-commerce bank payment, a principal and interest for buying loans. In addition, Agribank ensure information security through our own business activity. We have 2 data centers in Hanoi have been assessed and certified by British Standard Institution ISO 27000 standard, comply with regulation in ensuring information security in banking activity at Agribank. Deploy security solution for defense in depth with the most advanced security device available such as firewall, database firewall. At the same time, Agribank has implemented a SOS system to collect and store log centrally, automatically analyze and correct security events that detect attack in time. During the process, administration, and operation on the system, especially during the social distancing and lockdown period, Agribank has actively divided stakeholders into target group and implemented technical support to ensure information security in all banking activity, especially as follows. We have 3 groups. Group 1, technical group. Group 2, banking and office group. And group 3, partner, contractor, third party. In some circumstances, require social distancing, social isolation. Group provide is an encrypted VPN connected to ensure that it cannot monitor terminal activities on the system. Write and save system logs for late queries. Agribank also focused on deploying contingency IT system between data center, regional connected center in the center and southern region, and contingency communication network infrastructure to each transaction point, result in highly error-tolerant IT system. Act as a safe buffer during a period where there is a loss of human resource for management and operation due to the impact of the pandemic. Concerning Agribank's strategy change to adapt the development of the new normal, the directive of the board had led Agribank through the darkest period of the COVID-19 pandemic. On August 31, Nikkei Asia ranked Vietnam the second globally in terms of recovery index post-COVID-19 pandemic. Nikkei COVID-19 Recovery Index as of August 31. Following the trend, Agribank is well known as a banking and finance institution that has done very well in the prevention and recovery of business activities. Especially on September 7, 2022, Agribank's credit rating agency to local currency deposit and local foreign currency issue has been raised by Moody's from BA3 to BA2 with a stable outlook. In 2021, the Asian banker also ranked Agribank 130 over 500 strongest bank in the Asia Pacific region. It also recorded at the highest level among commercial banks in Vietnam. After the COVID-19 pandemic, Agribank Board of Directors has realized that in addition to short-term measures, long-term solutions need to focus on organization and personnel changes, and promoting digital transformation is an inevitable trend to help organizations quickly adapt to the new normal after COVID-19, growing faster and more sustainably. In the short term, bringing the workforce back to the workplace, encourage and help increase labor productivity while raise awareness on pandemic prevention and control. The just measure and requirement on work safety and health assessment, avoid contact and group gathering on the workplace. Require staff to wear masks during operation and contact with customer. Provide period testing kits for staff. Equip the office with temperature testing machine. Implement strict hygiene measure and schedule regular cleanup. Increase and encourage from automation and digital environment working. Invest in equipment, infrastructure to support remote working, promote training, exchange, and online meeting between units, department instead of on-site training. Providing welfare for employees affected by the epidemic, support for testing and treatment costs for staff infected with COVID-19. In the long term, focus on digital transformation. We orient the department at the head of it into 11 divisions with a focus on transform Agribank into the leading banking in digital transformation in retail in Vietnam. The COVID-19 pandemic has shown digital transformation is the only and mandatory trend for Agribank, as well as the whole industry to adapt amidst natural disaster and epidemic. Currently, Agribank focus on resources to implement the construction and promotion of digital transformation through the system to work innovative thinking, raising award and applying technological advance, turning Agribank into modern bank, a leader in digital transformation and retail in Vietnam. To release that vision, Agribank had issued and drastically implement 2K strategy. The strategy plan for information technology development and the digital transformation plan at Agribank at the basic infrastructure development, foundation and development of a digital bank, promoting digital transformation based on the modern technology, helping to improve competitiveness and customer experience to help Agribank develop quickly and firmly overcome all difficulty and challenges. Focus on implementing financial inclusion. To able to implement the national financial inclusion strategy in 2025 with a vision to 2030, Agribank have a number of key solutions finalize the legislation framework to create an enabling environment for achievement financial inclusion goals, develop a support organization distribution channel, improve financial infrastructure in order to support customer to access and use basic financial product, develop a basic finance product and services aiming toward to the target of financial inclusion. It's finished my presentation. So do you have any questions? Please don't hesitate to ask me. I try to my best to answer all your questions, please.
Yes, we have one question. After 2 years under the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, what is the biggest lesson for Agribank in general?
As you may know, the COVID-19 pandemic has many negative impact on the world, not in Vietnam. This is why the banking industry needs to be well prepared to expected events that have strong impact on the global finance industry in the future. I think that commercial bank need to increase investment spending on financial technology, cloud computing application, blockchain, improving technology infrastructure, digital procedure in banking activities to meet the increased demand of customers. Bank leaders need to understand that a large network of branches is no longer an advantage, especially in the current complicated epidemic period. So it's a big challenge with Agribank. As I mentioned in my first presentations now, our bank is a very big one. The cost of maintaining large network of branches are also burdened during time of crisis. The finance risk of climate change need to be addressed. To achieve this, commercial bank need to develop a roadmap to address a climate-related financial risk. But in the other hand, as you may know, the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic changed consumer payment habit, giving the opportunity to fully benefit from the 4.0 technological revolution. And today we sit here with each other. I think somehow we can say thank you because COVID-19 they have a more flexible working become more popular than ever. Employee can work at any location with fully equipment technology platform and equipment without having to go to the office as usual. The application of technology is also fully utilized in the bank internal operations, such as organizing conference, meeting, training online, saving time and limit face-to-face contact. It can be seen that commercial bank need to fully benefit from technological advancement, staying innovating and creative to flexible and adapt to all circumstances. So I think after 2 years under the impact of the COVID-19, we have many lessons from this. We must to change our habit to work. So I think every pupil find out lesson appropriate for their life, and every bank can help us very seriously to find out a strategy for their own bank, because we need something to change, especially we must to focus on the IT system. Otherwise, it can be difficult to develop our bank. Yes.
Thank you very much. There's just one follow-up question on the what would you say is the largest loss for Agribank? Would it be the cost of technology or yes, this one.
So in slide, okay, you can see in this slide all nine business indicator witness a growth. Agribank total mean a payment increased by 8.93%, credit increased by 20.97%, and total asset increased by 8.3% compared to 2012. So that means
yes, you did
thank God.
Did well. Yes, yes.
During the COVID-19, all our indicator is a growth because we using IT, and on the indicator is still grow. I think that we are lucky now.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Duong, and thank you to AgriBank for that paper. And thank you also to the participants meeting for your inputs. We will consider all the inputs and the paper as duly noted and endorsed by the committee, and we will advise the committee and the ABA on further steps that will be taken moving forward. Thank you once again to Ms. Duong for the paper. And we would now like to proceed to the next agenda item, are the considerations for issues for future policy advocacy work. We would now like to solicit comments or suggestions on what future issues or activities the committee needs to undertake. We received suggestions from Bank of East Asia, Ms. Alice Howe, to discuss fraud prevention and climate change. So we would like to open now the floor for any further suggestions for the committee to discuss. You may type them at the chat box or Q&A, or you may send your suggestions to the ABA Secretariat. So we will consider these two submissions, fraud prevention and climate change, for the Secretariat and the committee to consider. So we would now like to proceed to the next agenda item, which is other matters. And we'd like to open the floor if there are other matters that the committee would wish to take up. If none, let us now move to the setting of the next meeting for the committee. And this will be held early 2023 in line with the ABA Planning Committee meeting in preparation for next year's ABA conference. The details on the meeting, including meeting date, venue, and agenda, will be shared with you in due course. And since there are no other matters, we would like to once again thank all of you. We'd like to thank our presenters and all participants who joined the meeting today. I hereby declare the meeting adjourned, and we look forward to seeing you all again at the 38th ABA conference on November 1 to 4. Thank you very much.